The exact number was 15,181 nanograms per milliliter, or 15 micrograms per milliliter.
So with respect to the urine at the scene, the lorazepam level goes up in the urine sample at autopsy, correct?
The autopsy urine concentration is greater than the scene concentration.
And with respect to the midazolam, the autopsy urine concentration is much less, isn't it?
Much less than those two urine samples of lorazepam. Yes.
No. The urine sample midazolam at autopsy is much less than the urine sample midazolam at the scene.
It's 3 times less, 4 times less at max.
It's 1/4 as much.
Okay, to me that's not that significant, but okay, it's less.
Well, in the jug that was sitting on the chair, it's 4 times as much as it was at a time of autopsy.
Fine, yes.
Whereas lorazepam, in the jug that's on the chair, it actually goes up at time of autopsy.
Objection Vegas to go up.
Overruled. It's greater than.
And you would not be willing to draw a conclusion from that lorazepam was taken subsequent to the time that it was accumulated at the scene in the jug.
That's correct. I'm not making any inferences from a urine value.
Okay. The half-life on midazolam is, do you know that?
I do not know.
Okay, but lorazepam, you looked up the half-life, and that's 9 to 16 hours.
That's correct.
Would you be familiar with the fact that midazolam has a shorter half-life?
I would agree with you because it's a short-acting type drug.
When a person consumes lorazepam orally, do you have any knowledge as to the time that it takes to get to the peak level?
No, I don't.
Isn't that... Where did you learn that the half-life is 9 to 16 hours?
I looked it up in the Dr. Basalt's book.
In Dr. Basalt's book? Doesn't Dr. Basalt's book indicate the time to reach peak level also?
Objection relevant. You didn't look it up.
Sustained.
You didn't read that in Dr.
Objection
Basalt's
asked
book.
and answered.
Sustained.
Your Honor, I didn't hear the answer.
That's the point. It was asked and answered, and the court sustained.
The objection is sustained.
So you don't, is it your answer is that you don't know whether Dr. Basalt's book discusses absorption time?
Objection relevance what as to form of the question.
The objection is sustained. As to what particular drug or medication?
Okay. Is it your position that Dr. Basalt's book does not discuss absorption time for lorazepam?
Oh.
This states the testimony.
Did you read it in the book?
It's in the book. I don't remember what the book says.
Overruled.
Does it Does it discuss time to reach peak blood level?
Objection relevance as to what the book discusses.
The objection sustained. It's the witness's opinion that is at issue.
Okay, as a result of reading Dr. Basalt's book, have you formed an opinion as to the length of time it takes to reach peak blood level from oral ingestion of lorazepam?
No.
Nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Flanagan, thank you. Redirect examination. Mr. Walgan.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Morning, Mr. Anderson.
Good morning.
Sir, I just want to clarify one issue, and I think you've indicated on cross-examination by Mr. Flanagan, you never went to 100 North Carrollwood, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So when you received the items in question, you received vials of blood that were given to you that you learned were obtained from UCLA.
Yes, received directly from Investigator Fleek.
You also received what was booked by the coroner's office as medical evidence number 1, which is actually now People's 118 and People's 120, which were two different components, a syringe with plunger and an IV catheter or needle, correct?
Yes, medical evidence came in as two different pieces within one container, yes.
Okay. And it was referenced in the initial booking process, these two components were referenced as a broken syringe, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. But you have no knowledge as to the condition they were recovered at the scene or have any knowledge whatsoever other than your toxicology analysis of the fluids contained in these People's 118, the syringe.
That's correct.
Okay. And the IV bag and the IV tubing that was collected on June 29th, 2009, again, that was just simply brought to you at the lab and it was labeled collectively as part of medical evidence number 2, correct?
Yes.
Can you explain, Mr. Anderson, the difference strictly from a toxicology point of view when you're determining the numbers that you've referenced? Can you please explain the difference between a blood sample and urine sample as to the value it has in your analysis?
Sure. Typically, we're analyzing the blood samples for drugs. Drugs in the blood generally represent what's happening in your system, what's actually can affect your system as a whole. The urine, as explained earlier, is just a simple reservoir of collecting everything that your body is metabolizing out. It's just collecting everything that you possibly have taken 5 minutes ago all the way out to days ago. Hence why we saw ephedrine in the urine but nothing in the blood. The value for us interpreting-wise is we expect the urine to be a lot more concentrated. That's the expectation. If you find it in the blood, you expect to see a lot more of it in the urine, drug-wise, concentration-wise. And usually when we find trace amounts of things in the bloodstream, we'll look to the urine or an excretion product to substantiate what we think we're finding in the bloodstream. It just helps us in our interpretation later down the road.
And again, then, as you indicated, so the urine is more historical in nature. It's what has been expelled from the body possibly over a period of time.
That's correct.
May I receive the defense exhibit relating to the harassment? Mr. Anderson, I want to ask you a couple questions about, this is Defense Exhibit GG. a report from PAC Tox indicating defense counsel Flanagan, gastric contents. Now, well, it actually indicates gastric contents, but it indicates then urine here, so it's unclear from the report. Counsel has represented this as a gastric contents result, although it indicates urine. For the sake of my questioning, let's just assume it is gastric contents, as then it's indicated here. So assuming that this test which apparently was done on date received June 16th, 2011. Okay, date drawn June 26, 2010. Date reported 8/29/2011. Let's assume that this is 634 nanograms per milliliter in the gastric contents for lorazepam. You've had a chance to review that?
Yes, I have.
And did you work through some calculations to break that number down as to an actual, to break that number down into a meaning as it relates to tablets?
I have.
I have a 2-page document titled Lorazepam in Stomach. May this be marked 172 for identification?
Yes.
Placing a P172 on both pages. So again, I'm taking the number from the defense test, Mr. Anderson, the 634 nanogram per milliliter in the gastric contents for lorazepam. Taking that 634 nanograms per milliliter, which is reflected here, the lorazepam concentration, 634 nanograms per milliliter. This gastric volume, what number is that?
That's the amount that I measured or weighed out of the stomach contents from autopsy.
And then in determining the actual gastric amount as reflected on this page, can you walk us through these calculations and explain how you arrived at this amount in stomach calculation?
Sure. Because this laboratory measured in concentration, they measured 634 nanograms for every milliliter of fluid that they had. Totality-wise, at autopsy, I was provided 73.5 mils of gastric contents. So the 634 nanograms for every mil, but I have 73 mils of it. It's a simple multiplication of 634 times the amount in the stomach of 73.5 mils gives me a 46,599 nanograms of lorazepam that remain in the stomach. And then making the conversions, the nanograms to micrograms is 1,000th off. So you divide by 1,000, so it's 46.55 or 599 micrograms. Still trying to make that make sense for you guys. You know, we're talking milligrams. Everything's given in milligram amounts. Milligram tablets, milligram IV pushes, things of that nature. Divide that again by another 1,000, and you get 0.046 milligrams of lorazepam that remains in the stomach.
And you actually broke it down more precisely to 0.046599 milligrams of lorazepam in the stomach. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Flanagan had presented you with People's 107, which you had indicated is a lorazepam prescription pill bottle, and the pills being 2 milligrams each. Is that right?
That's correct.
So with a 2 milligram pill, assuming each lorazepam tablet is 2 milligrams, you've calculated that the amount in the stomach